Welcome to Unlocking Human Potential with me, Andy Hosgood, a show dedicated to exploring what it really takes psychologically, behaviourally and practically to help humans thrive through conversations with leaders, founders, coaches, behavioural experts and people shaping how humans perform and grow. Is this for you? But if you're a leader, a founder, a business owner or an ambitious professional who wants to do more than just perform, they want to grow, inspire and bring the best out in themselves and their people, then keep listening, because the mission is simple: to explore how individuals and teams unlock potential in themselves, in others and the organisations they shape. Every episode is a deep but relaxed conversation built around three core questions. How do you optimise yourself? How do you unlock potential in others? And the best advice for you, the listener. Now over to the episode. Really hope you find it helpful and insightful. Just before we introduce our next guest, please make sure you press the follow button to keep updated with the latest episodes. Additionally, special thanks to 246 Photography and Pixel Made Brands for making this podcast a reality. Now over to the episode. Adam, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks
Awesome,
for having me.
You. Thank you for being on. It's a privilege to have you on. So for our listeners, most people run from pressure, but today's guest runs straight into it or jumps over it. Adam Brashaw is one of the film's industry's elite stunt performers, doubling for Ryan Reynolds in The Hitman's Bodyguard and working on blockbuster productions like The Avengers Age of Ultron, Assassin's Creed and many others. When the stakes are high and the margin for error is zero, Adam's the guy they trust. But this isn't just about stunts. He's a lifelong martial artist, a black belt in Kali, plus a practitioner of Jeet Kune Do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and many others. That depth has taken him beyond performing and becoming an action designer, a fight coordinator, shaping the scenes that you feel, not just watch. Away from Hollywood, he's also the founder of the Cuddle Club, the Jiu-Jitsu brand, building discipline, confidence and connection off the mats as much as on them. And if you follow his journey on Instagram, you'll see it isn't just a job, it's his way of life. Today we go on action into mindset, pressure and what it takes to perform when it matters most. Adam Brashaw, welcome to Unlocking Human Potential.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be on the show.
No, it's been lovely, and Mr. Wiles will be very very happy that we've eventually made the connection, and no doubt be reminding us of it for a long time to come.
Oh, I'm sure.
We had to get him in.
Yeah.
So Adam, the theme of one of the themes that really sits in this podcast is always around curiosity. So our opening question is always, what is something that you're curious about right now?
I guess for me, my whole life has been about, how far I can take it, how far I can push it in my career, in my physical sense, in the practical sense, like in every sense of the word. I'm like, I use curiosity as that kind of, I guess, idea to see how far I can take things in my life,
Nice.
And it's always career orientated. Essentially everything that I do is essentially related to my career in some way, shape or form. So that's kind of that's the driving force really for everything that I do.
Lovely. Well, normally I don't have a curiosity question, but with you I've definitely started with one. How do you become a stuntman?
It's funny you ask. I mean, a lot of people do want to know, the ins on how, because it's quite a closed shop kind of industry in that sense, certainly from, let's say an audience perspective, it's like, oh, it must be really fun, being in the world of stunts.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's one of those where I have always been interested in it. So ever since I was literally a kid, I would watch the classic, you know, Van Damme, Steven Seagal, like Arnie, obviously, Schwarzenegger, but Wesley Snipes, you name it, all the action stars. But more importantly, Jackie Chan was my like massive inspiration when I was a kid. And so that for me was just like, you know, always always a driving force to try and be like that in some
Mm.
way. So without even knowing what the stunt industry is, or you know, I had no connection, no in whatsoever. But me and my friend, we would watch kind of action films and Jet Li, Donnie Yen, and literally go out and just kind of with my. It started off with a webcam, and we would
Okay.
just recreate, you know, fight sequences just with, you know, me and my friend, and we go, okay, what if we put the camera there, what if we put the camera here,
Oh,
and then
nice.
and so that was kind of the, you know, the my way of kind of living that dream in a way as a very
Yeah.
young kid. And then I got first then after that I then got myself on like a high 8 camcorder where you insert the tape, you know, it's like an old fashioned kind of
Yeah, yeah.
camera. And then it started then becoming a bit more of a passion where I'd then, you know, film little fight scenes with my friends, or and then bring it into my like computer that my mum and dad got me, and I just like I taught myself editing. And I would
Oh,
then have
wow.
to like, you know, play on the record on the camcorder, and then hit record on the PC to try and, you know, feed it into the machine, and then taught myself editing. Everything is kind of self-taught, and just
Mm.
slowly one thing leads on to the other. But essentially that, to kind of just fast track all those years later, it led me into free running, parkour, gymnastics. Though I was very late to the gymnastics, I wasn't like a young kid. I think I
Mm.
started in parkour free running when I was about 18 or 19.
Right.
And so very late in that sense. But just kind of loved it, and just kind of took it upon myself to just like learn the skills and train, and just yeah, push in that area. And anyway, again, fast forward another kind of 10 or so years, maybe more, after doing that for a career, I then basically got a call to be a snatcher in Harry Potter. And
Right.
the reason being is because they needed, it was Deathly Hallows part one, and there was a sequence where all the kids, they're running through the woods, and they're being chased by snatchers and death eaters and whatnot, and they needed to cut down these trees, and have like one of the sequences where Daniel Radcliffe, like Harry Potter, he runs underneath, and I then ran, and I'm tic-tacking over him, above him, kind of thing. And anyway, the sequence was very technical, and needed people that could do free running and parkour in their kind of natural ability, because you know, there's people that are in stunts that they might be more focusing on driving or horse work, and so you kind of, they were looking for people that were kind of specialist in that
Mm.
field. And so they basically branched out, and we were just, you know, we were at the peak of our kind of parkour and free running career. And it just, all the stars aligned, if that makes sense.
It's
So
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, and got the call, obviously was available for it. And but it wasn't just like doing stunts, it was actually playing the character. So
Okay.
they needed, you know, it was like, you know, we need people that can do it on camera, because sometimes, you know, stunt performers, they might not be the best in acting or whatever it might be, so that's why you get the stunt double and you get the
Mm.
actor. But sometimes what we want in the industry is that you want to find somebody that can do the acting and the performance, and as well as the action. And that was the kind of the first sort of position for me within the film, I guess, film profession. Even though before that I'd done music videos and commercials and things, I'd been involved in the, you
Okay.
know, filmmaking and productions. This was the first professional, high level, high end, you know, Hollywood sort of feature film that I'd kind of landed. And it was basically due to the fact that I could do parkour and free running, and they needed somebody that could also act and do the character stuff. So I just kind of one of those where just, you know, all the stars aligned for me, and I got that job, and I feel like I did it, you know, best of my ability. I'm a good person. I work hard, and hopefully that was basically the in within the stunts, because where the stunt industry is quite sort of it is kind of closed shop.
Yeah.
It's hard to just kind of call someone up and say, "Can I come on in?" It's like there's a lot of it's a process to try and get in there, and sometimes it is down to having a contact and just somebody that's in the industry. But I had none of that, and so it just so happened that they reached out to me through a contact that's in the industry that knew somebody that was in our group of friends. And it just was one of those
Wow.
where it just went, okay, yeah, I know somebody, cool, can you give me their number, da, 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 da. And then it kind of got to me, and I was just like, well, this was my whole life, dreaming about this, and it
Yeah.
came true,
Wow.
and it's just like, wow, like, those things do happen. and
Yeah.
and that was one of those moments. And so that it, because it was the character part, but it was kind of heavily stunt related, I then was introduced to the stunt team, and the stunt coordinator, Greg Powell. He's one of the biggest stunt coordinators in the industry. He did all of the Harry Potters, and he's done every major Hollywood, action film you can imagine. And so he was the stunt coordinator. He then, after that job, I feel like we developed a really good friendship. And from there, he wanted me to come along to work on his next film, which was Pirates of the Caribbean, which was,
Oh,
I think, number 4, where it's Deathly Hallows. No, not Deathly Hallows. On Stranger
okay.
Tides, which is like the 4th one. And that was a great experience, because it was like learning sword work for the first time, and it was again, another side of the job that I'd not really kind of
Mm.
experienced before. Where yeah, so that was, and it just kind of went on and on and on. It's like you do a good job there, then it's like, okay, now are you free for the next one? And next thing you know, it might be quiet for 6 months to a year, but then they call me up, and then I got an audition to double Jeremy Renner in Avengers: Age of Ultron. And so then I did the audition, and obviously like shined in that regard. And then they said, right, we want you to be the stunt double. So then I was on core team to then do Avengers. And then from there, they saw that I had filmmaking abilities and editing and visual effects that I would, this is back 15 years ago,
Yeah.
where I was kind of one of the first, I guess, to sort of incorporate the VFX within our previs world, which is basically us creating the fight scenes, designing all the action, pre the film shoot. And so we would put it all together, we would film the angles, do the action, then I would do all the visual effects, and that was kind of our process. Then we would present it to the director, and they would say, love that, and we're going to use that as our blueprint
Oh, nice.
to shoot the scene itself, for the film. And so then that's where the stunt team saw that I had more to offer within the industry. And so I then got asked to do more of that, and then it's kind of one thing leads to
Mm.
another, and that sort of. But I guess ultimately that comes down to the hard work, dedication
Yeah.
of everything that I did pre, getting my first role, was, I believe, always uh, leading towards that goal in the end. That was always my mentality. So I remember having conversations with my parents, and I'd be sat there, with my Hi8 camera, and saying, I have a dream of working in films, and I want to be a filmmaker. I want to make films. I want to be in films. I want to do stunts and action and fights. And, I just have this passion, and they would just be so supportive, and,
Oh,
just push for me in that regard, even though all they could do really was just support it and just say yes, even though they didn't really have an in, or if they were financially, in not the best place. So they could just give me their love and support. And that was basically all I needed when I'm there filming my little sequences and doing it all on my own out the front, in the car park. And I'm doing little kind of crazy things like this, asking my mum if I could, oh my God, there's some funny stories where, my mum, she had this one car where I think the engine was kind of, it was on its way out basically. And I said, Mum, I've got an idea. And she's like, right. And I said, how would you feel, because I know you're getting rid of the car anyway. It was gonna kind of go on Monday. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, it's now the Saturday. And I said, how would you feel? I've got an idea. I said, how would you feel if you were to drive the car at me and I'm just gonna run over and jump over the car for an action sequence that I want to do? Bear in mind, I've got no experience in stunts at this point. And my mum's like, okay, let's do it. And I'm just
Oh
like,
wow.
yes. So my mum literally, I said, right, let's do it really slowly. And I set the camera up on a tripod, and my mum would just kind of literally kind of take the handbrake off and just slowly roll it
Mm.
down. And I just basically just bam, 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 just ran over it. And I just had those ideas. I just wanted to get, the action was in me at that point, and I just wanted to do it. And my mum said yes. And that's the support that I had from my
Mm.
parents. They would just say, yes, we support you. And I would have an idea, let's say a short film where, I wanted like the characters in a mental kind of place where he's venting, and I wanted to like kind of smash something in the house, because it's like I'm playing the character and I'm creating the sequences and the scenes and stuff, and I've written the sequences and I kind of play the character as well, and it's all for my own exploration of
Mm.
filmmaking. And I said, Mum, I want to do this scene where I'm in my head and I just get really angry and I, smash some things, off the side. And my mum was like, okay, well, let me find some things and you can do it. And so she would then find an old cup and all this, and and stage it
Yeah.
for me. And then
Wow.
I'd, play it out, and then I'd probably get my mum or dad to film it, and then I'd just go, "Rah," and and it would like make a big crash, but they would go, that was really good, well done. And then I just like, yes, that's so cool. And then I put it in the edit, put it together, and just that process of just, trialing this as a well, just exploring really filmmaking and playing a character and acting. All of this was way before I got into free running and got into doing any kind of action. It was purely just me trying
Mm.
to do that, as a young kid. And filmmaking was a huge, huge passion for me back then, and it still is. It still is now. So it's kind of like I feel like the dream came true, and it's still very much the dream now. I'm doing it, but I'm ultimately still looking for the next thing and what
Yeah.
that next thing is. And I'm just, the dream never, it doesn't never goes away. It just changes in some way, but it's
Yeah.
still in the same direction. I guess you're just riding the ladder as you go up. But yeah, I mean, there's so many of these funny stories, but ultimately it's like, it's a dream that I had from a very young age. And I was able to just continue on with that belief, and one thing leads to another. And I do believe in things like the law of attraction. I believe in the work that you put in ultimately will give you results one way, shape, or form. Whether
Mm.
doing the action towards that goal is better than doing nothing, and it's going to give you something, whether it's the end result or the next rung in that ladder, or a different direction, whatever it might be. But you have to have the dream, have the passion, have the goal, and then ultimately work in ways that will break it down into different manageable goals, and then just slowly work from there. But it really just comes from having a passion in something, and not giving up, and never saying that, because I remember being a kid, and I had so many people say to me, I'm living in a dream world, for wanting to make it in the films. And it's like, that's the most common response, because how do you get into films? What it's not
Yeah.
something that no
Yeah.
one knows the end. It's just like you watch films, you watch productions, you watch, it's all kind of like this fantastic world that you just would love to know how it's all. We love to know how things are made in the films, but you never really think that you're going to be involved in that. You don't necessarily know how that's even going to happen unless you go to film school. You've got some kind of financial, backing in some way that can get you into film school, or you've got contacts within the industry. And if you don't have any of that, then you kind of go, well, you are living in a dream world, really,
Mm.
because there's nothing tangible for you to make that a success. But I believe that, you have to believe in that, even if it's just absolutely the most crazy dream. You have to believe it so much that it's all you think about, and you never take your foot off the gas, even though you might have to go off on slightly different roads because of, let's say, the current job you're in isn't the right thing, and so you have to take a little side job or whatever it might be. It's hard work. It is hard work, and but ultimately always remembering that you're net like this isn't the end game where you're currently at, and I will get to where I want to go. It's just going to take a little longer, whatever it might be, and just never not believing in yourself, essentially. And that's what I think is so important, really.
Yeah. And I mean, there's two things I took from that. One, and I guess it would be good to explore, what do you think sits behind that self-belief? Because, it's quite a powerful, like you said, not knowing where you were going to go, but still having that belief even at a young age to keep going. I think it would be interesting to explore that. And then also what I loved about that story was how supportive your parents were, because I
Mm.
think it's very interesting, isn't it, that, you know, what age were you when your mum was running a car at you and asking?
She's probably going to be like, "Don't tell them that. I'll get arrested."
No, that's brilliant.
But it's brilliant,
Support
right?
mum, I
It's
think
so
that's
good.
that's
Exactly.
brilliant.
It's the best. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
the best. And I've got the footage. Funny enough, and I need to find it. It's on some old hard drive. Crackly footage from my
Yeah.
camera and stuff. And you see me run over this car, and it's just like, what the hell am I doing? But I was very passionate about films from a very, very young age. Like, I remember my first. I don't know if I think my I don't know if many people remember their very first film that gave them this feeling,
Mm.
as a feeling in some way. But I remember it very vividly, and I must have been probably like 5, something like that. And I remember watching the first 1970 Superman with Christopher Reeve,
Mm.
and I remember watching it and in literal belief that this man can fly and he's a Superman. And it was just like, that was the moment that I was like, wow. It's kind of like my son right now. He is hugely into Sonic. That's his character, and
Yeah.
he loves it. And he's got all the toys and the bed sheets and everything like that. That for me, that was Superman. But I remember watching the film and being absolutely just blown away and just being like, whoa, like this is a world that I want to do this. I don't know what it was. But it was something that I always knew that from that point on, it was something that I just felt connected to in
Mm.
this world. And when I found out, obviously you realize that it's a film, it's not real. Okay, I want to, whatever that is, I want to be a part of that. I want to do something within that. And so it's almost like, my parents will say this, it's almost like I've only ever known this as a passion. I've never strayed off it, like even from a very, very young age. And I think that's where they probably saw that and was like, we'll support that, because it's
Mm.
a passion and he loves it. It's something that we don't know how he's going to do it, however, but we'll support like his trials and tribulations within that, and like the exploration in the journey. Will support all of that. And yeah, and I guess it's just one of those amazing things that you get there in the end. But yeah, I guess they knew from a very young age that it was something that I wanted to do, and some way, shape, or form. I remember being, I think I was about 15, and where I'd done all the, like, teaching myself how to do editing.
Mm.
I wasn't necessarily in the physical side. Now I'm going into the editing side. So I'm like, okay, I'm filming, putting it in the computer, figuring out how to edit, like all from, there was no YouTube back then. There was like 56K modem,
Yeah.
waiting for the dial up and get off the phone, it's like that kind of thing. And I'm like teaching myself how to do editing, VFX and all this kind of stuff. And so that became a huge part of my life. And so I at the time, I kind of wasn't in shape. I kind of, if anything, 15, 16, not really exercising, kind of put on that sort of, that baby kind of chubby weight. And so I thought at that point, I'm like, well, I'm I'm going to be a filmmaker then. Like, this is one way, shape, or form. I'm going to do something within the films. I'll be a filmmaker. I'll be an editor. I'll be a VFX guy. I'll do 3D animation. I don't care. Like, this is a world that I love and I'm passionate about. And, I watch every Friday at the end of like I used to fit carpets with, when I was younger as an apprentice, and actually later on became a carpet fitter. But that's this kind of story in itself.
Yeah.
But I would, every Friday, I'd get my money and I'd go down to the supermarket or the shop, and I would get a DVD, make sure there's a 2 disc. So I'd get the special features on 1 disc. And then I would just watch it, like 4 or 5 hours of special features. And I'd just be obsessively watching it and just like, taking notes, watching how they make it, the ins and outs, lighting, costume, design, stunts, you name it. And I would just have this huge passion for filmmaking. And and then The Matrix 1 that came out, and that was one, like, I remember the disc. It had like hours and hours of special features on the disc, and I would watch that religiously because it had so much good content on teaching you the ins and outs of filmmaking and the process, storyboarding, script writing, you name it, like, costume design, set design. It literally showed you so much, and it was so like informative to me. And then so it's kind of like, yeah, I would just see it all as like this kind of, I'd act as a sponge and just trying to absorb as much as I could. So then when the time came, I would be, way more, have an understanding of the whole process. And you're not just going in. My first day on a film set, I felt like when I stepped on Harry Potter, it felt like a world that I was so familiar with. It was like, it didn't feel alien to me. It wasn't like, oh, this is, whoa, don't get me wrong. I remember the first day, and Daniel Radcliffe came up to me and he's like, "You're right, Adam." And I'm like, he obviously saw on the trailer my name and da da da. And he's like, yeah, and he's talking about it and the set and the scene, sorry. And we were just chatting. I'm just like, okay, this is actually unreal right now. My first day, and I'm talking to Daniel Radcliffe, and he's just such a legend as a person. He's just so approachable and very kind, very very, very, very nice man, and made the process so nice. And because you do hear stories of people where actors, they're in the zone, they're not approachable, they might be doing their thing, and that's totally cool, but he was the opposite. He was so just chatty and made the experience really nice. But ultimately on set, I didn't feel like it was an alien or like like a place that I wasn't familiar with, because I was so ready for it. I was so prepped in my head, even though I had no idea about the stunt industry at all. It felt very familiar territory, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's kind of like, that young age, just kind of one thing leads to another sort of thing. I guess that's a familiar theme there. But yeah, it's my parents were very supportive, and obviously for them, they couldn't believe it. They were just like, telling everyone, families and everyone, Adam's going to be in Harry Potter and it's going to be amazing and all this. And even now, they still kind of, after everything that I've done in my career, they still kind of say to me that it's still crazy that this has happened, and it's like, you're doing what you're doing, and we still have to think, about that. We still kind of remind ourselves that, you were, just somebody that had no training, nothing like that, and you were, now look at you, sort of thing. And they're still very, very proud, very, very proud.
Well, I think what I'm picking up from that is that your passion, they've obviously seen that, haven't they? And that still comes across to this day, doesn't it? Listening
Oh
to
yeah.
you can feel that through the screen.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can feel that
yeah.
passion and the excitement in your voice when you're talking. I think it's quite, and I feel inspired listening. So I think what's really love about that, and I think I go back and I'm thinking there'd be parents listening going, oh, and I think parents sometimes can. Go, well, how are you going to do that? That's
Mm,
impossible, and put
sure.
barriers up for kids. Whereas what I
Yeah,
loved about your story, your mum was like, yeah, come on, let's give it a whirl. Or,
yeah, yeah,
if you want to smash something up, no problems. Let me go and find some old stuff, though. Don't use the
yeah,
best stuff on me.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
but
They were like,
again, Go on, sorry.
no, I was just going to say that they were like, well, we can, chip a bit of the wall. We'll just get some filler and paint over it. It's like they really didn't like
Yeah.
put any strain or on the ideas. They were just like so supportive in that way. And I think, as you're probably getting to, is that the if there's one thing you could take away from a parent perspective, is just give your child 100% support regardless, and that's like so powerful, because it's not about whether you have a big financial support. It's just about just that love and support in anything that they want to do, even if it feels like an impossible task. Just allow them to explore it.
Well, I see it as, I think a lot of kids have got this kind of very open growth mindset, don't they? You said you wanted to be Superman, or you
Mm,
loved that when, and you're probably seeing it you know, with your son, is it,
yeah,
you
my
know,
son. Yeah,
he probably might not want to be Sonic, or he might be want to be
yeah,
Sonic. But what I'm saying is there's this
sure.
thing of going, we have these as kids, don't we? And then normally as we grow up, we kind of get someone, well, normally someone puts
Yeah,
that on us, doesn't he? And go, you're never going to be
you've
that. Shut up. Stop being
yeah,
that. Was what I
yeah.
loved about that is, and it still sounds like it, you were saying before how I feel like you've not even hit the level of where you want to be. You just want to keep
Mm,
pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing.
definitely,
And
yeah.
it sounds like that growth mindset, if you to put it a kind of term on it, has been, almost harnessed. You've had it naturally, which I think a lot of children do. But
Mm,
being in an environment which, has just allowed you to go, okay, that's cool. Let's see what you can actually do from this. And if we
mm.
can support you in any way, I think, you know, don't get me wrong, your career is brilliant. And, before this, my daughter, has been, was proper fangirling you on your Instagram and checking you out on, and your career is immense and
Mm,
you've done some amazing things. I think the biggest thing I've taken away from this at the moment is just that, your parents and the environment they allowed you to flourish on, and,
mm,
has just allowed you to go, well, I can do this because even my mum and dad are, encouraging me in doing it. And that, the word self-belief, seems to really come through this. And, this
mm,
podcast is based on three things. It's based on, how we unlock potential in ourselves, and what's interesting is and then how we unlock potential in others, and then what advice do we can we take from our journeys and then to listeners.
mm,
And what's interesting when we listen to a lot of people that through their developmental years or their early years, they've been put barriers in place. So now as adults, or when they get to adulthood, they've got limited self-beliefs, they've got self-esteem issues, they've got all these kind of things that they've then had to overcome to achieve stuff. But what I love about you, and I'm, challenge me if you think I'm wrong, but it just feels like, you had this passion and dream. And don't get me wrong, the fact that you were young and you were taking fight scenes and then you were watching all the special effects, it shows for me that not only were you passionate about it, but you were determined enough to go, well, I need to understand this well enough. And
mm.
I'm going to put the hard, and that's the thing, isn't it? I think, you're putting a hard graft in at a very early age. I love the fact that you're saying you and your
Mm.
mates practicing fight scenes. I'd love to see that
Yeah.
footage of
Oh,
brilliant.
yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that, it sort of sounds like the hard graft, but it actually was just the most fun, because it didn't feel like any
Yeah,
work or any effort, it was just an like a thing that's inside of you that just says, I want to do this, or not even do this. I'm passionate about it, to the
yeah,
point where it's like you absorb it and you're just like, yeah, again, do this. And you'd happily do that thing for hours and hours and hours.
yeah,
And it's just because you love it. It's not
yeah,
because I wasn't only doing the mindset of, I'm doing this because I want to make it in that industry was there. But it was in the beginning, it was doing it because I just love it.
yeah,
And I didn't even know if I didn't know that that was on the cards at the
yeah,
time. I'm just doing it purely from a love and something that I found that has just like taken me. Similar to
yeah,
jujitsu. Really, it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
when you get into jujitsu, you're like it's either you get the first kind of few weeks. It's like, I love this. And then you either make you or break you. And some people you never see again.
Yeah.
Others, they go, oh my God, I love this. And then it's when you can't sleep at night because you're thinking about the techniques. You're like, okay, how can I improve this? And you're going through, like, I remember the first kind of, well, first few months of training. After a heavy, good training session, you'd come away and you'd just be processing the technique and how do I better myself, and what do I need to do to stop that from happening again. And you replay it and replay it, and it's like a passion. You do it because you love it at that point, as
Yeah.
opposed to being like forced to, or oh, if I keep going, I'm going to be a black belt. That's got nothing to do with when I first start out. I'm doing it because it's like it's gripped me,
Yeah.
something's taken me. And it's the same with parkour and free running. That came into my life at the time where I was just like, I needed it. It just appeared, and I was doing all these fight scenes and free running, and already I was doing. Me and my friend, we were, as I said, we were watching, say, the special features. And one of them specifically was Romeo Must Die with Jet Li.
Yeah.
And in the
Good
special
movie.
features, there's one of these, one of the comedians, that one of the actors that played one of the guys in there. You could see there's like a fly on the wall camera, and he's talking behind the scenes on set, but they're not rolling, they're not acting or anything. He's just having a conversation. You see him, and he does this kind of stunt fall, like a flip to his back. And me and my friend were like, I mean, he was a big guy, and we were like, and he made that look so easy. And we was like, what the hell? And so my friend, we were like, do you reckon you could do a front flip? And bear in mind, we've got no background at this point
I love
whatsoever.
this.
We like literally no background whatsoever. But we are doing a bit of filmmaking, a bit of fighting and stuff. And we're like, my mate was like, maybe, I think so. And it's like, should we go and try? And it's like, okay. So we went out the front. We got this little patch of grass, and my friend went first. Bear in mind, he actually did do a bit of gymnastics when he was way younger, but not in those recent years. So he'd done something. So he ran up through the front flip, landed on his feet first time. And it was just like, I couldn't believe it. Well, then I saw my friend do it, and I'm like, well, he made that look really easy too. So
Yeah.
then obviously I've got zero. I've never done a front flip in my life. And I was just like, okay, let's do it. Ran up, bang, threw it, landed on my feet. Bear in mind, it was low, but I landed on my feet, and I was like, oh, no way. And my friend was just like going crazy as well. And we were just like, we've just done it. It was like just trying something
Yeah.
at the right point in our lives where we just didn't have this kind of, as you get older, you start thinking about, oh, I've got like a mortgage to pay for. And, oh, do I really want to be doing that?
Yeah.
It's like, when you're a kid, you just go, let's throw it, and you do that. And so we then started, and that's kind of literally how throwing things and doing flips began. And then I would say about 6 months after that, free running and parkour, like this thing came up where there was a Jump London and all of this, and we were like, we're already kind of doing this. We're like jumping up walls, we're jumping off, we're doing front flips and learning tricks and stuff. And we were like, this is, and we were, again, it was like free running and parkour just seemed to just hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was like, okay, this is the thing, this is the next thing. And I was waiting my whole life for something like this to happen, where it just take me. And I'm just obsessed about it, and I trained, and I just started doing it. Now we know it's kind of within a box where we go, okay, this is a vault, this is a side vault, all of these things. We now know we have something to kind of work towards. And then because of free running and parkour, it then got me into shape, it got me agile, it got me flexible, it got my body, mind body connection. I was able to use my body in a way that I was never able to use it before. And then we, funny enough, stumbled upon a group of friends that weren't friends at the time, were also practicing parkour and free running when we were like 18. And we're coming back from town, and my friend just see these legs appear upside down past, like, over a hedge. And he's like, oh, come running over. And we get inside this little garden. It was like a park kind of thing. And there's these about 5 other guys that are in there. And my good friend Chase, my good friend Nathan, with Cole, we've got so many, like, good friends within this group, and they were basically saying, yeah, we do free running. And we were like, so do we. And we was like, this is crazy. So then from that point on, we started a really good friendship. We then created a team, a parkour and free running team, and then we started a YouTube channel in 2006, and then started to kind of push for that, and we grew that, which ended up, I think we got to about 250,000 subscribers. We were making videos that were getting millions of views in the early days. We kind of did a David Guetta music video. That was one of our biggest kind of things that we did back then in 2005 or whatever it was. And then we got music videos and more music videos, commercials, and all of these things. So it's kind of like, just when you find something and it's passionate, you kind of go with it. And because of that, I would say parkour and free running gave me the agility. And at the same time, I was doing martial arts as well. So I did, find capoeira, boxing, kickboxing. It's kind of all happened at once, if you know what I mean. The movement kind of happened at once. And yeah, so then we kind of had this kind of crazy career in parkour and free running, which then led to obviously working in films. But kind of my point was that when you find something that takes you, like, you don't even think about it. It's like it just pulls you in that direction, and you just love it. You're passionate about it, and it never feels like work. And you'd happily, wake up early in the morning and do it. You'd stay up late doing it. Like, I would do editing and filmmaking, and we'd go out with our cameras, do our film, like parkour and free running days, come back, and I would edit, and I'd literally be up till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, just because I'm just like, I love it so much, and it's just that passion and drive. But it was not work at the time. I didn't feel like I was grafting. It just felt like it was easy, and I was just following a dream, following a passion. And yeah, that's kind of was that.
I think, and what I love about that mindset, and I mean, for you, it almost is like you think that's natural, because when you're passionate about something, you just follow it, right?
Mm,
But there's going to be so many listeners that go, oh, wow, really? Because I think a lot of
mm,
people, start off with a passion. One of the things, the word almost obsession comes into mind a little bit, with
yeah.
which I think sometimes you have to be, don't you? I think if you want to be the best you
Mm,
can be, one of the things I'm listening to you is, and I have to ask you this question now because it's playing, your appetite for risk seems really high.
mm.
Do you know,
Yeah,
if
I
you know
would
what I
say so.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like, there's an
Mm.
element of going, what I love about it is how I keep going back to the car thing with your mum, and how your mum embraced your appetite for risk. Most
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
yeah.
like, oh, don't
Encouraged it.
hurt yourself when you go out. Be
Yeah. I'm
careful on
not
your
driving a
bike.
car at you.
No, and
It's
your mum's
like,
going, yeah,
yeah,
cool, I'll just
let's
drive. Just
do
drive
it.
it slow, just to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure.
We'll go slow, but don't die. I'm like, okay.
I
That's
like that
brilliant. Yeah.
instruction. Yeah, just
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Only because she wants to get rid of the car and she doesn't want the
Yeah. So,
responsibility of that.
yeah,
That'll
I
just
don't
cause a
need this
havoc.
on my conscience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
But so how do you, you know, if for people that don't know what parkour or free running is, can you just
mm,
give, I'm familiar, but I guess just explain the kind of stuff that you would be doing?
sure. So basically, parkour and free running, it's kind of, it's an art form where, like similar to skateboarding or BMXing, you're extreme, you're outside, you're jumping over, like, let's say if you're doing BMXing or skateboarding, it's on the streets, you're going down, concrete stairs, you're doing flips and tricks with your bike or your skateboard. Well, parkour and free running is basically that, but just with your body. It's like urban gymnastics. I'll probably get, told off for saying it. Don't ever say it's gymnastics. But it's like, to describe it, it's basically that.
Yeah.
You're doing, you're running, your efficiency. Parkour is basically getting from A to B in the most efficient way as possible. And it's like, if you were to run in a straight line, and there's blocks in your way, there's walls, there's all these things, you would literally vault and move so efficiently over them that they wouldn't, stand in your way. You'd be able to just flow over it. But then free running is kind of like, you would express yourself in a way that you could just do a backflip off the wall. You could run and do a trick, round off and do some backflips, and you could, flow in a way that's just creative for your body. So there's no real boundaries from that point of view. And so you'll see a lot of videos where, people are jumping across rooftops and they're doing, big tricks, I guess, with their bodies. And that's essentially what it is. It's using your body as an art of expression, essentially.
And the reason why I asked you to explain that, because again, it comes back to risk, that you are jumping off stuff and you are doing backflips off stuff. And of course, the always that for most people, what if it goes wrong, or what happens if I mistime this? Now I get the impression the first thing you didn't do, well, the fact that you just did, oh, can we do a front flip in my garden? Let's just work it out, kind of thing, says you probably have got a little bit of, oh, we'll just see what happens in you. Which I think most people listening are going to be like, oof, holy moly. Where do you, and is that just because this drive to become better? Is this drive just that, where do you think that's come from? Is that just something natural in you? Do you think it's something?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, I kind of, it's sort of when I say that, that something takes hold of you, you kind of embrace everything that it is. And, you look at, let's say, things and inspiration. And I guess that's for me is probably the biggest driving factor because, I would watch high level martial artists, let's say, and high level fight scenes and high level, like Jackie Chan, for instance, he's like biggest inspiration because he basically pioneered screen fighting, in like his whole career is insane. And so it's like following in inspiration, which then if you see somebody do it, it's like, it's possible. So it kind of it takes the kind of the extremeness, the risk out of it, because that it's possible. Someone else has done it before. It's not like you're going in, blind. You know what the parameters are, and you can say, I can do that. I'm human like anyone else. Like that person who did that thing is human. So you kind of, where that and you're inspired by somebody, they've done it before, you can then just do that too, or at least you imitate. That's kind of what it is. And you go, okay, yeah. And it's very analytical because I definitely have this thing where it's like imposter syndrome, where I feel that, I shouldn't, I should be better. I should always be better. I'm quite hard on myself, I guess, when it comes to that. And I know that I get told that, by people. It's like, don't be so hard. You're really good. You're really talented. And I'm like, no, but I know myself, I can be better. And I should, I need to put the time in to make myself better, but it comes from looking at others and seeing how amazing they are. And it's like, if they can do it, then so can I. But, or at least if I can't do it, I'm going to try really hard to get somewhere near, and so that inspiration is huge. And so, yeah, it's like the risk is kind of outweighed by the drive to want to just be better. But like any risk, or like anything, you start from low. Like certainly with parkour and free running, let's say as an example, and it kind of in any sense really. But like you start small and then you build, and that's kind of the same in stunts, same in any career. It's like you start off at the beginning, which is kind of like dipping your toes in, so to speak, and then all of a sudden you build that tolerance, you build that the expectation, you get familiar with that, and then you kind of go in a bit deeper and a bit further, and you push. And it's the same when you've never done a certain movement in parkour or free running. Is like, I've never done that specific trick, but I'll do this instead. And then once I've got that, then I know that I'm very close to that, because I'll just then slowly build and baby step, and then you get to that trick in the end. And it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever kind of gone through, I guess, where you're relying on your own instincts and your body, your awareness, your spatial awareness to put it together and be able to do the hardest trick that you think is difficult at that time. And when you go through those steps and you finally get that trick that you was dreaming about, when I said, you stay up all night when you're thinking about jujitsu and those moves. I had that with filmmaking. I had it with free running and parkour, where and anything that I'm passionate about, it will be in my mind, and I'm like, I can't stop thinking about it. And it's like, let's say there's a move that I would love to have. Let's say I remember a wall flip, where you have a wall and you kick off the wall, you do a full back flip, and you land back on your feet. Like I remember that being a specific thing, and I was like, wow, man, that's going to be difficult to learn, but I wanted it so bad. And then I just slowly, basically, I just started doing a backflip in front of a wall, just doing a backflip. And then it's like, okay, then I'd try and spot the wall, and then I'd slowly build and slowly build. And then you build it and you get there. And it was like, whoa, I can actually now do that. But that was so far away from me at one point. And then I just kind of just worked on it and built in the kind of conditioning, so to speak, to get to that point. And so it's like the risk factor kind of gets taken away when you slowly but surely build it over time. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think what I've taken from that is that what I love about that, you seem to be very clear of what you're looking to try and achieve, and it always seems to be out far of your reach. So then you go, okay, so let's work backwards and go, right, I want to be able to achieve that. I don't feel like I can achieve that. So instead of just going, let's try that and hurt myself, let's work out all the little steps that I need to do to get to that point, and to build that confidence up to get to that. And I think there's a real big lesson there for people, isn't there? Because some people feel like, okay, there's this thing over there that looks cool. I'd love to be able to do that, but I'll never be able to do that. Whereas what I love about your mindset, it's like, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. So how do I work backwards to work out what I need to do to get there?
Yeah.
And the other thing that was interesting about it is you use the words imposter syndrome and how you're not good enough. But I get the impression that inner critic, which is kind of my interpretation of it, is actually a motivator. So some people run away from the inner critic going, I can't do this. You're right, you can't. Let's bail. You'll turn around and go, I can't do this, but I want to do this. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean into being the critic, and but that also is that the piece of going, is that part of the motivator? Because I think you said, I just don't think I'm good enough, or they're better than me. So it's then, that inspiration of going, you look at Jackie Chan as the ultimate to say, oh my gosh, does all his own stunts. I don't know what he's still doing stuff.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, so if he can do it, that means it's possible in the world. So
definitely.
actually, what do I need to do? What's the baby steps, or the little, steps of the ladder to get to that point? I love that. I think it's a really powerful message for people listening.
I've always said that there's never, like, don't ever don't ever doubt yourself or put any idea, no, how big or small, like even if it's the biggest dream, like, allow yourself to go with it, and I think that you'll be surprised, even if maybe the end goal, you don't get to that dream, but just pursuing it, like, will get you somewhere that you never dreamed of, I guess, because you would never have achieved anything if you hadn't even got on that path. And so I was heavy believer in, at the time, I think many years ago, and I watched like a thing on law of attraction, and it basically, and this is quite interesting because obviously at the time I went from just doing it through passion and love and everything like that, and just that drive. But then I found the law of attraction, and it was just like, okay, I'm going to harness the thing that they call the law of attraction. And it's not like this kind of dream world. There is, some people would think that it's just a dream world type thing. But what I see it as is, you're putting your ideas like almost on paper as a tangible thing. So you say that this is not just a dream, this is goals, this is like actual goals that I'm going to work towards. And what there was one thing that kind of was very surprising to me. And there's this one of the things with law of attraction was that you had to make a dream board.
Oh
And
yeah.
so on your dream board, and it's very personal to you. You could literally do it however you like. And I made a dream board, but I did it through the computer. And I found all these images online that was my inspiration. So obviously, Jackie Chan's on there, like filmmaking, skydiving, like a big house. Bear in mind, I'm like young at this time, so you just like whatever means something to you to give you that inspiration. It doesn't matter what it is. It literally can be anything. It could be whatever, a cat, a
Mm.
dog, whatever it is. You put it on your own dream board, and it means something to you. But yeah, I remember specifically. Now this would have been back in like 2000 and I don't know 9 or 10 or something like that. And I made my dream board, and on there specifically. And bear in mind at the time, I'd done a film, so I'd done Harry Potter, I think at the time, but very new in the game. So I'm not excelling to the point where I will eventually get to, I guess, and you know have more and more work and more jobs will come in. At that time, I've done Harry Potter, and it's great. And now I'm like just living my life. I'm just back to being an not that I wasn't any, not that I was something when I was there, but just
Yeah.
back to normal life. And I did my dream board, and very specifically on there, I had Ryan Reynolds, and I put Ryan Reynolds on there. And so this is
Nice.
back in like 2010 or whatever, I can't remember, around that sort of time. And then lo and behold, in 2016, I get asked to stunt double him, and not once, but twice. And
Awesome.
I'm just like, and I look back on the dream board, and I basically ticked off so many of these things. And if I look at it now, I tried to find it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I have ticked off a lot of those things just in nature of growing, maturing, getting a house now eventually as you get older and will have
Yeah.
kids and all that. But at the time I didn't have any of that. And so, but then to fast track 5 years later, not knowing how my life is going to go, not having any control over it whatsoever, I actually ended up doing like one of the major things where I'm just a kid from Basingstoke, and I've put Ryan Reynolds on a dream board, and I end up getting the role to double him not once but twice. And I just think like, wow, like isn't that incredible? Where you just think, like how is that even possible? But that's where the hard work, dedication, and just pursuing the dream and passion, I guess things align. And that's where I guess the magic can happen, where it's
Mm.
not like, it isn't magic. It's you putting in the hard work and dedication and looking at the goals and breaking it down into manageable goals, and, find going down and down and down to the point where I can achieve this little
Yeah.
thing. And if I do that, that's going to get me to the next thing. And you have to know what that is. You have to know what the system is that you're building. But the fact that that it happened, and it to me was just like a big wow. And so I believe in that. I believe in goal setting. I believe in, even if it's massive, break it down into those smaller
Mm.
goals, and just start working on it. And nowadays, we didn't have YouTube back then. We did when we was 2010 and whatnot. But when I was really young, it was all kind of like going on a forum, trying to find information on how to edit on like a website,
Yeah.
all these things. But now the YouTube is insane. There's just no anything online. Obviously, with AI now, it's like
Yeah.
you literally can get a whole entire blueprint
Yeah.
designed for you like that at a click of a finger with
Yeah.
AI. There is like there's no excuse in this day and age if you have such an important goal or dream. There is no excuse to be able to put the wheels in motion, and create a manageable kind of blueprint for you to actually achieve it.
Mm. I love that. If it's any help, my dream board's here to the right.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Love that.
So I
Love
have
that.
it. So always have it on my
Brilliant.
right hand side. So when
Just
it's
keeps
always
you,
there. It's always there. Yeah, 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 yeah,
nice.
yeah. So
Just
yeah,
keeps you there,
that's why I was smiling
Yeah, it's
because it's
great.
there. It just keeps me. But I think it keeps you focused. And one of the things
Yeah.
I've certainly taken a lot from this conversation is, you are laser focused on what you want, and I think it's, I love that. So I guess one of the things I'd like to touch on, I'm conscious of our time, so I'd like to touch on just one thing is, and then around trust. So obviously, when you're doing, as part of the fight, coordinating fight scenes,
Mm,
when we look at it as a fan and we were sitting at home in front of our tellies or in the cinema and watching a movie scene, some of it is quite, the coordination, you've got to, things look, we all know it's kind of, if we really look closely, we probably will
mm.
know, don't we, that it's not real. You're not really
Sure.
hitting people dead hard.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the moment, you don't know that, do you? It looks like it
Mm,
does. So how do you you walk on set with, you've got some of these quite big actors that you've already mentioned to work with. And I'm assuming how do you build trust in teams? Because I think that's one of the things. I think trust in on set, if you're doing a stunt. I think I read an article of you having to jump down a building or something and you had a wire on you or something like that. They were saying, you've got to trust
mm.
that that's connected well. You've got to
Yeah.
trust that everything's set up well. So when you're doing a stunt and you jump in, you had to trust your mum wasn't going to hit the
Yeah.
floor at 40 mile an hour.
Yeah.
So how do you build
Yeah.
trust in a team?
Essentially, the whole kind of game in the film industry, it's all about teamwork. That is essentially what it's all about, because there's so many different departments, and if none of the departments work together, it's very kind of disjointing, and you definitely notice it, because it's like, oh, one department isn't helping out the other, and so you just kind of find it difficult to say get the job done in some way. But these days, usually everyone works well together, and that a lot of the time when it comes down to the script, we'll break that down. We'll figure out, okay, how do we make sense of what the script writer has written. Sometimes it might not be anything specific, sometimes it is very specific, and it might be specific to the story itself. And so we would then break that down and figure out, okay, how are we going to do this, practically, from an idea to a practical, how do we do it safely? How do we do it, repeatable? And so we would then, go and design the sequence. We would figure out ways to prepare it correctly. We would Whether we need a wire team, we would then bring in a rigger to create the wire correctly. And so we would basically, it's all about kind of bringing in the right people for
Yeah.
that job, and then we rehearse, and we do that. We build, again, it's baby steps. We start from the ground zero, and then we slowly build to the point where what you see on set, and the sequence might be like an incredible, like, wow factor sequence. It's actually done meticulously,
Yeah.
from start to finish, and what we see on screen is like hours, weeks, months of
Okay.
preparation,
Yeah.
which will then, give us that on screen, and again, every department, you have, let's say there's an explosion involved with a wire gag, you're going to have all departments working together, and yeah, it's an accumulation of all of those things, and again, weeks, months, days, hours of prep, of rehearsal time, and building it in, and slowly just building up to the point where what we see is what you get.
So it's very much like you're saying, we know what we want to achieve at the end.
Mm,
So
mm,
what does that need to look like, and what's all the little steps that comes back? That's certainly something I've
yeah.
really taken away from this conversation.
Mm,
I know we're running out of time. If you've just got a couple more minutes,
sure.
we
Yeah.
have to certainly turn around and go, okay, so why do we start Cuddle Club?
Yes, yes. Well, that was, again, it was something that I've always had in the back of my mind, where I'd love to create a brand, a clothing brand, and I just never knew how, or really had the inspiration for. I always thought it would be a cool thing to do. And I remember I heavily involved into jujitsu, and I just thought to myself, like, actually, like, some of the brands, like, not knocking them at all, but they're very, black and whites. They're, hard. It's kind of like tough energy, like, like that kind of thing. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to like not take it so seriously and just have fun colors and fun rash guards and just create something that's actually sort of fun and, you know, a slightly different take and not to be taken too seriously ultimately. And so that's where it kind of began. And I thought of the name Cuddle Club, and I thought actually that's kind of brilliant because it's like it's a play on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I just started designing again, never having any experience, you know, it's like, this is, wow, I really want to do this. Okay, so where do I start, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like, so then I had to learn Adobe Illustrator and I started
Right.
to do my own designs and figure that out. And then it's like, okay, now I need to I've got some designs, trial and error, trial and error. And now I'm happy with this specific one or whatever it might be. And then find a manufacturers and you go through that process. And then, you know, they send you a sample, it's not right. They do another one, it's still not right. The fit's different. You start going back and forth with these kind of manufacturers and stuff. And it's a bit of a process. That's one thing I've noticed is that it's not something that it's quick. It
Yeah.
never is. And it's that if anything, I'm like, how are we still here? You know, and I still don't have the design yet or whatever. But it's a process. But when you get there and you go, okay, cool, I love this. Now we can bulk order it, and then we get that, you know, get the process going. Then it was okay, how do I start the website? How do I, you know, again, it's fully just self-taught, essentially, just
Wow.
trying to do it all myself. And I realize actually I need a team, you know, of people to try and run this because it's actually quite difficult, certainly when I'm busy anyway, because I essentially just do it all myself, you know.
Yeah. Right.
But I think, yeah, it's cool, and I've had such great response from the community, the jiu-jitsu community. And you know, people message me, I love your gear, the
Yeah.
quality of it's amazing. And you know, because that's ultimately what I've really, you know, what I wanted to, you know, kind of be specific about, is that it's not just the generic kind of cheap stuff with a stamp and your logo on it. It's like, okay, how can I make it like the text embossed? You know, how can I, you know, bespoke the hats and the colors, and you know, it's got the labels and it's got all these different things that make it very unique. And the fit, even like the hoodies that I've got, they're specifically designed. The cut was specific. I'm like, okay, I want it cut here, there, it's nice, you know, the stitching, the type of stitching. I went through absolutely everything on
Wow.
that one. And it's just such a nice feeling because now, you know, I, regardless of whether I get any sales, and it's very, sometimes it's quiet and most of the time it's quiet, to be fair, I feel happy wearing it and I feel happy training in it. And you know, and then when I get a sale, it's awesome, you know. So it's
Mm.
not something that's life changing right now, but you know, maybe the long game, it's like 5, 10 years, whatever, and if it's still going and people love it and it just slowly organically grows, then that would be fantastic. But either way, I'm enjoying the process, and I'm not kind of seeing it as a, you know, a life-changing sort of venture right now. It's just sort of enjoying the process and the fact that people love it. And I've had such great feedback. It's just like, cool, well, I'll just keep going. And you know, I love that kind of community vibe where people go, yeah, that's a cool brand, cool name. Like I'll wear it, and they buy it, and they train in it. They send me competition, you know, footage of
Mm.
them wearing it, and I'm just like, that's so amazing, you know, like that. You know, people are actually enjoying the gear, and it's nice. So
And do you know what? I mean, I love the gear. I mean, I before we'd even be introduced yet, you know, I'd bought it, and that was the
Mm.
funniest thing. And Adam had, I'd loved the brand and everything done. I bought the gear, and I even said, and I remember wearing it, and it was Adam that turned around and went, "You know, it's my mate's company." And I went, "We're telling the gear's decent," and that
Right.
was the big thing with the
Nice.
quality of the stuff was. I thought for the price that we pay and the quality was amazing, right?
Mm.
And so,
Nice.
but now I've met you and we've had this conversation, 100% know why. It's that
Yeah.
attention to
Nice.
detail. Like you said, that hoodie is still my favorite hoodie.
Mm.
I would have
Oh
worn it
yeah.
today, but
Nice.
it's hot
Yeah.
in the northwest. We've actually got sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that
Nice.
100%, I think. So
Real.
please do keep going with it because
Yes, I will do.
the community definitely needs it. So please do.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
just if we could just wrap up with just some advice for the listeners. I'm
Sure.
conscious of time. So just what from this conversation, what three practical things you think people could try today?
I think one of the biggest ones is really find that thing that you're into. Like find the thing that you love. It doesn't matter what it is. It's so personal to you. But whatever that thing is, it has to be something that you don't stop thinking about. Something big enough that you would be willing to put so much effort in. Because otherwise, you know, if not, then it's it's wasted effort, it's wasted
Mm.
energy. So but that doesn't mean to say that you can't explore things and find that thing. So definitely explore, because some people I know that they go, "Oh, I don't know what that thing is for me." And that is the hardest thing. It's like I've just found a way to incorporate the things that I love, which then become my career. It's like that. I don't know if you've heard about the ikigai. It's a
Yeah, love it. I've
Japanese,
got it book. I've got the
yeah,
book. Yeah, yeah,
it's amazing. It's like
yeah,
basically everything wraps around that thing, and
yeah,
you can then, if you can turn it into a way to make a living, turn it into your passion, all these things, it wraps around that thing.
yeah,
And if you can find that, and certainly the younger you are, if you can find that, then that's a major step forward.
yeah,
But if you haven't found it, then I would say go and explore ideas and try and find, try different things, try so many things, certainly when you're younger anyway. And just see if there's something that just grips you. And when it grips you, you can't stop thinking about it, and you've got like this passion for something, then it's actually not work, it's fun, and you enjoy it, and you get creative, and your brain starts firing, and it's easy. So I'd say one of the biggest ones is try and find the thing that gives you that spark, that love, that passion, and then yeah, and once you've found that, then figure out ways to make something out of it. So even if it is, like whatever it is, working in films, whatever it might be, then do the research, find information online, watch the YouTube videos. I watch YouTube videos now, even if it's something like, okay, how do I do that thing? YouTube, because it's free, it's a free resource,
yeah,
and it's so good. It's so, and obviously there's AI now, but find ways to understand it, obviously, and then start putting those things into practice, ultimately. And I kind of use my sort of let's say not free running, but let's say it with anything that I do. But let's say fight scene creation, like fight scene design. Um, you know, a lot of people I know in the stunt industry, they want to do fight design and action fight choreography, things like that. um, and it's like, okay, well, where do you start? Well, you can't just jump, let's say, straight at the end. You've got to then start from ground zero. And the only way you can do that is get a camera, meet up with some friends, just like I did, and then start shooting some stuff, putting
yeah,
it in the edit, teach yourself editing, teach yourself whatever it might be, and put it together and create the best piece you can make, and then watch it back, learn from it, and you learn from the process. But so that's all I did. It's literally just like, okay, I want to do this. How do I do it? Well, I'll get a camera and I'll just start shooting some stuff. And I would say some of the first things I ever made were just like, yeah, like absolutely shocking. But that's okay. The next thing, now I'm going to improve. And then I watch Jackie Chan, and then I will see how they did it. And I'm like, okay, so on that one they did a low angle. That was nice. Okay, that actually gives more impact to that shot. So
yeah,
right, back out, fight scene, bum bum, low angle. And it's like, and you just trial and error, learn, learn,
yeah.
learn, and become the best you can be. That's literally the answer, I think, is be the best you can possibly be, have inspiration, and always try and better it. Never be satisfied, and just always continue to bet yourself, and you'll get there.
I love that, and I think that's another thing I've taken from this. Your passion for learning
Mm,
is,
yeah.
sits up through all this, isn't it? It's just, that learning how to become better and how to do stuff.
Mm.
So I think
One
that's love.
thing, one thing is interesting is that it's also that the feeling of not knowing your craft. So you sort of feel like, like being, let's just say, in a film set scenario. you don't want to be the person that's being asked all these questions and you have no idea what the answer is.
Yeah.
And so understand it at its core, and then there's no stone left unturned, is there? You kind of like, you've got the answers and people come to you for that, and so you've got to know your craft inside and out, essentially.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's come away, the preparation you put into things and the detail you put into things, I think I've certainly taken away from today.
Great.
So just to wrap up, for people that have enjoyed our conversation, where can people follow you?
Yeah, no, I've got my Instagram. Generally, that'll be where I use to kind of put some of my portfolio stuff on there. You'll see a lot of my fight scenes and the BTS of films that I've been in and people that I've doubled. And my career essentially has been kind of uploaded to Instagram, which is just my name, Adam Brashaw. And that's kind of the main source, really. I don't really use anything else. I kind of, and then obviously, if you're interested in jujitsu and you want some Cuddle Club gear, then you can go to our Instagram, which is Cuddle Club JJ, or the website, which is cuddleclubjj.co.uk. So yeah, you can find all your gear there if you want some.
And I'll be putting all the links in the
Nice.
show notes, along with, I think,
Perfect.
also a link to the Ikigai book. I think
Yeah,
that's definitely something that would be, I think listeners would really do.
nice.
So what
And
are you working on next?
yeah.
Is there any exclusives you can share, or if not, then don't worry.
Yeah, I can't share anything, but I am going on to another big project,
Nice.
which would be cool. But I'm currently, funny enough, like, when we talk about just continuing to learn and be better at your craft, I'm actually sat at my desk right now. I'm working on a short action film.
Oh, nice.
It's like that we've been filming over the last, like, I've been off work for a couple of weeks, so we've been getting together at my friend's car garage, and he's literally kitted it out, and it looks like it's a unique car garage, but it almost looked like a film set. And so I was like, we should do a fight scene here, and he was like, love that, because he's in stunts as well. My
Okay.
friend Chase, he's doubled Mark Wahlberg like
Right.
loads of
Okay.
times. He's like his main guy. And my good friend Nathan, he's also assistant stunt coordinator, action designer, that kind of thing. So
Nice.
we're off at the minute. We've come together and we've just basically put together this fight scene in my friend's car garage. And so, but anyway, we're filmmaking, we're doing all this, and I'm currently on the edit as we speak, and I'm looking forward to sharing it, actually, hopefully within a couple of weeks. So yeah, it'd be
Oh,
fun.
brilliant. So just before we wrap up, what's one final challenge you'd like to set the audience?
One final challenge for them.
Yeah.
I would say, if there is one challenge I can give you, it would be, you know, if you don't know what it is that you want to be yet, find like 10 things and try them out
Nice.
and see which ones work for you. And if you don't find any in those 10, find another 10, and just keep working on something that because you will find something, and 9 times out of 10 you won't need 10 things. You'll probably find the first 3 that pop in your head will be something that you're interested in. And if that's the thing that you have found, within those within the 10, within the 5, 3, whatever it might be, just start working on it and just start playing with ideas, and more importantly, have fun. Because I feel like you put pressure on yourself, then it can kind of pull you away from the that fun element. And I found that whenever I'm in an element of play, like you are when you're a kid, it's just fun, then you actually absorb it more and you learn more, and you have fun with it, and it just feels effortless. So I think, yeah, find the thing that you want to do, and then your life will kind of springboard off of that.
Awesome. I love that. Adam, thank you
Nice.
so much. Really
Thanks for having
appreciate.
me.
Thank you very much. And to
Cheers.
our
Thank you.
listeners, make sure you are following us. Make sure you follow so you can get all of our episodes. Really appreciate it. And again, any feedback, always feel free to reach out. Till next time, thanks a lot.